Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, a new push for tips in a Calhoun County woman's mysterious disappearance. Plus, a deadly pest from Mexico threatens local cattle and possibly your pets. Plus, Erin could make history this week as the first hurricane of the season, but will it threaten the U.S.?
We'll be talking about Erin because the tropics are getting active. For us today, nothing active out there. I mean, it's just stay indoors because upper 90s is the forecast for the next few days, and we'll have all that coming up in a moment.
Plus, news outlets win the fight for critical documents from the Uvalde shooting, what they might reveal. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. I'm Shauna Curry. Pre-trial hearings are scheduled later this week for the suspect in the murder of an Edna cheerleader, with a jury trial scheduled to get underway in October. 25 News Now reporter Ray Mosley joins us with the latest developments in this story. Ray?
Yes, Shauna. Rafael Romero is indicted on charges of capital murder, but the district attorney's office is not seeking the death penalty. Romero is accused of the death of Lisbeth Medina. She was just 16 years old when she was killed on December 5th, 2 years ago. Romero was serving probation for a felony burglary charge and staying in Schulenburg with an expired work visa. Lisbeth was an Edna cheerleader who was scheduled to march in a Christmas parade, but she never showed up. Lisbeth's mother found her dead in a bathtub with stab wounds to her upper stomach area. Police arrested Romero and searched his room. Investigators say they found several items in his bedroom belonging to Lisbeth, including her wallet. The Texas Rangers have video of Romero leaving Lisbeth's apartment complex on the morning of December 5th. The arrest warrant also outlines social media and text messages from Lisbeth's phone after her death. Authorities were able to track her phone to Schulenburg, where they found Rafael Romero. The court may schedule one more pretrial hearing before October 27th. Shauna?
A cash reward is now being offered in the case of a Seadrift woman's disappearance 7 years ago. Calhoun County Crime Stoppers is offering up $1,000 for information on the case of Susie Escobedo. She was 25 when she disappeared in August 2018, leaving behind her 4-month-old daughter, her vehicle, and her phone. Authorities say years of searches have turned up no new leads, but they believe someone out there knows what happened. Tipsters can remain anonymous by calling 361-552-CASH. Investigators say even the smallest piece of information could help solve this case. The Victoria College trustees have approved the new year's tax rate and operating budget at a special meeting this afternoon. The board adopted a property tax rate increase from 17.09 cents to 18.32 cents per $100 of taxable value. The board will also be discussing this evening and take action on contracts and equipment purchases. An executive session is also on the agenda to cover personnel matters. Local cattle experts are watching out for a threat sneaking up from Mexico. It's called the New World screwworm. This insect lays eggs in open wounds, eyes, and nostrils, mostly in cows and calves. But pets, even people, can be at risk. Livestock can die within just 3 days of exposure. Right now, the southern border is closed to cattle trade while the USDA rolls out a 5-step plan to tackle the problem, including releasing sterile flies to stop new eggs from hatching. New World screwworm was wiped out in the U.S. back in the 1960s, and officials are working very hard to keep it that way. Tropical storm Erin has formed in the eastern Atlantic Ocean. It is the 5th named storm of the 2025 Atlantic season and is expected to gradually strengthen in the next coming days. Forecasters expect it to become the first hurricane later this week. Erin is located just west of Africa's Cabo Verde Islands with sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. Far too early to know exactly what kind of threat it will pose to the Caribbean, Bermuda, or even the U.S. So we are keeping our eyes on Erin, but really our concern in the crossroads for now is still this heat. Let's go to Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez for a first look at the forecast.
Well, obviously, we're going to talk about our heat because we got up to 97 today and we were 99 over the weekend. But Erin is, of course, the big story in the tropics. Pretty much everything Shauna said is correct. Here is the storm center. Where is it going to go? Well, we're pretty confident that it's going to cross right here, and it's going to be slow in developing. But once it gets out to this area of the tropics, it will likely strengthen. This will be the first Category 3 of the season because it is expected to grow. And at this point in time, the East Coast has got to watch it carefully. We'll have a lot more on your weather coming up in just a few minutes. Back to you.
Texas identifies the 119 people killed in the Hill Country floods. Most victims were Texans, but some were visiting from other states like California, Florida, and Alabama. The youngest victims were 1 year old. The oldest was 91. To read the full Texas Tribune article, come to crossroadstoday.com. A local radio legend is being inducted into the 2025 Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Steve Kaufman, known as the godfather of Texas music, made a lasting mark in Hallettsville and Victoria. In 1993, he brought his Texas mix format to a network of stations in Hallettsville before moving to Victoria in 1999. He became known as the voice of Victoria, sharing his love of Texas music and rallying the community for countless causes. He died in 2006 after a battle with cancer. Kaufman is one of 20 broadcasters who will be honored at the induction ceremony on November 1st. The Uvalde School District will finally release records tied to the 2022 Robb Elementary massacre. 19 children and 2 adults were killed in the shooting, and officials faced heavy criticism for the 77-minute delay in confronting the gunman. More than a dozen news outlets sued for access to the records, and after losing an appeal last month, the district's school board voted to release them. They are expected to include text messages, official communications, and documentation of known security issues at the school. President Trump calling for the federal government to take over D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department and call in the National Guard to fight crime. He says it's needed, even though violent crime in the city has been down for the past 2 years. ABC's Christiane Cordero has more from Washington.
Today, the Trump administration is taking over crime fighting in the nation's capital, activating 800 National Guard troops.
You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way.
The Army says in a statement between 100 to 200 Guard members will be out supporting law enforcement at any given time, helping with administrative work, logistics, and physical presence on the streets. The president falsely claims D.C. crime rates have spiraled out of control. Police data shows crime is actually down 7% since last year. Violent crime has dropped 26%, hitting a 30-year low in January.
And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
Trump has criticized Washington, D.C. for years, establishing a safety task force in March. The administration dispatched federal officials from various agencies last week after a former government staffer was assaulted during an attempted carjacking. The president says he will also deal with homelessness in D.C.
We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on.
Some D.C. residents are protesting the federal takeover.
The people united will never be defeated.
Speaking out against Trump's decision.
If Trump cared about our safety, he would stop mass firings of federal workers. Taking away our jobs, our families' jobs, that isn't safety.
The act Trump used to take over the Metropolitan Police Department gives the president control for up to 30 days. He would need help from Congress to extend it. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
We are streaming our news 24/7 on crossroadstoday.com, so you can go there and never miss any of your local news coverage. Stay with us. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. Search and rescue teams work to find survivors after a steel plant explosion. Plus, if you're stocking up the pantry for school, one Target snack could put kids at risk. Search and rescue operations are underway after an explosion at a Pennsylvania steel plant. At least 7 people were taken to the hospital. At least 1 person died, and it's not clear how many people are trapped in the rubble. The health department is on site to monitor air quality. A cause for the explosion is unclear. The plant is said to be the largest coking operation in North America. With children heading back to school and spending more time on their own, experts say it's a great time to teach them key money and life skills. From preteens to college students living away from home, building good spending habits now can pay off for years to come. Michael Yoshida has some of the lessons to consider for various ages.
57% of parents regret not talking more about money with their kids. That according to a survey from Empower.
Besides the fact that a lot of parents don't really give their kids these life skills to learn about money and protecting their information, the schools aren't doing a very good job either.
As a result, it can be helpful to show and explain monthly bills and expenses to children and make sure they understand
the difference between wants and needs. I mean, we all want a lot of things, and so we need to plan for needs, but people need to save for their wants.
For teens, other lessons include budgeting and saving, whether it's money from an allowance, first job, or other income. Understand buy now, pay later, particularly fees and interest, and how checking and savings accounts work, as well as checks, debit, and credit cards. Also keep in mind,
if you're 18, you're playing for keeps, okay? So people need to be really careful about anything they sign, anything they agree to.
When moving out on their own or heading off to college, make sure kids are aware of and have a grasp on taxes and filing returns. Importance of keeping receipts and records, whether that's physical paper or digital copies, and debt, especially how compound interest works.
It's so important to pay your credit cards in full to avoid interest every month. This is a big mistake that a lot of college students fall into. There's been some progress, but still, we see a lot of people in their late teens, early 20s getting overextended with debt.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida reporting.
As many students head back to school this season, we want to hear from you, our viewers, as to what your students' biggest back to school challenge is. Is it waking up early? Is it the homework load that they have to get used to again? Making new friends, or balancing school and extracurricular activities? Share your thoughts on our website, crossroadstoday.com/vote. And right now, 58% say waking up early. 60% waking up early is the biggest challenge. So go ahead and get started on the new routine and get back into the swing of things. But if you have not voted yet, we want to hear from you, and we'll have another look at the numbers on 25 News Now at 6. And as you're stocking up the pantry for back to school, you might want to double check those Target snacks. Favorite Day Bakery frosted sugar cookies, the 10-count, 13.5-ounce packs, are being recalled. Give and Go Prepared Foods issued the voluntary recall July 22nd after the FDA said the cookies could contain a little something extra, wood. They were made in Canada and shipped to Target stores in 20 states and D.C. New research says picking up the pace when you walk could help you live longer. The study tracked tens of thousands of people who answered questions about their exercise habits, walking speed, and overall health, then followed up about 16 years later. Turns out those who walked briskly for at least 15 minutes a day had nearly a 20% lower risk of dying early. To know if you're walking fast enough, experts say you should be able to talk, but not to sing. Dementia affects more than 6 million Americans, impacting memory, language, problem solving, and more. And it's linked to over 100,000 deaths each year. Cases are expected to keep climbing, but new research suggests many might be preventable. Mandy Gaither explains in today's Health Minute.
It's a growing concern. Researchers with the National Institutes of Health estimate 42% of Americans over age 55 will eventually develop dementia. And because of the aging U.S. population, the number of new dementia cases per year is expected to double by 2060. But a new study suggests many of those cases don't have to happen.
The headline really has been that about 40%, so close to half of cases of dementia, are likely preventable.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta says many people believe there's not much one can do to prevent or reverse dementia, but the recent research is showing that may not be the case. The U.S.-based study looked at more than 2,000 people between the ages of 60 and 79 who were cognitively fine, but weren't necessarily living a healthy lifestyle. After being put into a structured program, which included regular exercise, a Mediterranean diet rich in plant-based foods and healthy fats, brain training, socialization, and health monitoring, researchers found all these changes reduce the overall likelihood that the participants would develop dementia. Gupta says another study shows lifestyle changes in people who have already been diagnosed with cognitive impairment may be able to improve symptoms.
Doing 20 weeks of a vegan diet, exercise, strength training, stress relief, online support sessions, they saw people whose symptoms either stopped, stalled, or even reversed.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Dr. Gupta says because of a strong family history of Alzheimer's disease, he's been concerned about brain health. He went through a program which adopted some of the healthy lifestyle changes mentioned, and he says got back 6 years of brain health, according to his doctor.
Very important and fascinating. Basically, you got to stay active. You got to keep talking to people and keep out there. Otherwise, if you just sit down, and then it all comes down to you. So very interesting story. 94 degrees right about now. It's hard to get out there and active with the heat like this. Our high today, I'm pretty sure, 97 was our high, and that's 1 degree above. So we are average. So basically, we're going into the dog days of summer. It's the last 2 weeks of August, and usually these are the pretty roughest part of the summer. We'll be talking about that and taking a look at the tropics coming up in a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a good weekend. I went out to the backyard, said, no, I think I'll go back inside because it was pretty warm and hardly a breeze in the sky. I mean, I know we had a little pop-up thunder shower there, I believe it was on Saturday, and that's the day we got up to 99 on Saturday and 97 on Sunday and 97 today. We have this little weak frontal system that's basically draped along the immediate coastline, basically more humid over the Gulf waters, obviously, and a little less humid north of it. But that is also all happening up in North Texas, and that's actually popping a few thunderstorms out there at this point in time. Let's see if anything rolled around our neighborhood today. There you see the activity. It generally popped up right after lunchtime. We saw a few little showers and a little lightning up here toward Palacios and the Edna area, but by and large, nothing is happening right now. It's all decreasing. Once the sun goes down, all of this sort of collapse, and you can see that we did have a little rain total that actually occurred up there toward Wharton and the El Campo area. Not much happening around Victoria, maybe a sprinkle there and a couple sprinkles down on 77 South. Heat index, of course, is the important part where we all have to be very cautious. 105 is the number that we start warning you about, and we're going to be right at 105 all week long. You know the drill by now. I mean, you've survived this long during the summer. We just got to keep it going for another couple of weeks because look at it this way. If we're at mid-August, then that means that September is not that far away, and then October can't be that far away. So, you know, you got to be optimistic and look for the bright side of this. All of a sudden, as we talked last week, we have a tropical storm in the Atlantic. It's very far away, but it's going to be the first storm that actually is a honest-to-goodness hurricane. This is Erin right about here, and you can see how it's become well organized, even though it's in a hostile atmosphere. In other words, there's a lot of dust in the atmosphere, and but it is getting going. It's already up to 60 miles an hour, and you can see how it is forecast to stay in a hostile environment. And then right about here, it sort of breaks out of all of that. So by the time we get to the coming weekend, it should be up to a Category 3 hurricane right here at this point in time. I mean, it's pretty far out. You can see how it's got a general drift to the north. So there's one computer model that says it's going to strengthen, then turn before Bermuda. So that would, of course, give the East Coast a break. But everybody on the other side of the Atlantic, or certainly on the Atlantic side, needs to be watching very carefully. Erin should continue on that path, pretty confident. However, you just don't know this with this stuff, you know, it could change on you. Out in the Pacific, we're still very active, and we have one hurricane here. This is Henriette, which actually, there's Honolulu, so this is north of Honolulu, which is rather odd, and that one's going up into the mid-Atlantic. So come back home and let's talk about what we've got to deal with, and you know what we got to deal with. The dog days of summer are usually the worst time of the year. Hardly a wind blowing, looking for lots of sun. 94 down along the coast, 96 in the inland areas. Without a breeze, it's hard to be out there, but just consider that it's just a garden variety, 20% chance will continue, and then slight increase in the moisture coming in by this weekend. Hopefully we'll see a little more of that developing. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone, and here's Shauna.
Still to come, your holiday budget just got more expensive. New postal service fees ahead. The three major indexes closed down to start the week. The Dow dropped 201 points, the S&P 500 slid 16 points, and the Nasdaq down 64 points. Oil prices are up 10 cents to $63.98 per barrel. A White House official says the U.S. and China have agreed to pause tariff hikes on each other's goods for another 90 days. The news comes hours ahead of a midnight deadline when tariffs on Chinese goods were set to rise from 30% to 64%. It's not clear what rates China would have charged on American goods, which are currently subject to a minimum of 10% tariffs. Ford is charging ahead with big electric vehicle plans, announcing a $5 billion investment in new assembly lines and battery production. About $2 billion will go toward creating 2,200 jobs at its Louisville, Kentucky plant, which is switching from gas to electric for Ford's next-gen EVs. The rest will focus on a Michigan battery plant and a new, smaller, lighter battery design, plus a tease of what could be the most affordable electric pickup on the market. NVIDIA and AMD have agreed to give the federal government 15% of their revenue from chip sales to China. In return, they will get export licenses to sell certain high-end chips there, a reversal of earlier Trump administration restrictions. A report in the Financial Times also says China wants the U.S. to ease limits on a key AI chip component, which could come up in broader trade talks. You will likely need to pay more to send packages through the Postal Service this holiday season, according to a notice filed with the Postal Regulatory Commission. The Postal Service says it plans to temporarily increase the price for some services to help cover extra handling costs to ensure a successful peak season. The higher cost will cover Priority Mail Express, Priority Mail, and USPS Ground Advantage. No other products, including stamps, would be affected. If approved by the Commission, the temporary rates would go into effect on October 5th and will remain in place until mid-January. The Farmer's Almanac winter forecast is out. Coming up, what it reveals about the odds of a white Christmas.
Tonight, President Trump's federal takeover of the D.C. Police Department, the National Guard deployed, plus the President's summit with Vladimir Putin. What happens now? World News Tonight with David Muir is the most watched newscast in America.
Well, expect another cold and snowy winter. Not sure if we can say another snowy one here, but that's according to the Farmer's Almanac newest edition, which is out now. It forecasts the upcoming winter season will not be quite as bone-chilling as last year. The Farmer's Almanac's editor says to expect more of an average old-fashioned winter. Temperatures should cool down in late fall, then it will snow, then warm up slightly, then get cold again. The Almanac predicts winter weather could stick around through April. By the way, if you're hoping for a white Christmas, the best chance of that happening is in the northern plains. All right, so obviously I feel like they need a Farmer's Almanac for the north and then a Farmer's Almanac for Texas. So does that mean we're looking maybe at wetter?
It's a pretty generic forecast, you know. I mean, it's going to get cold and then it's going to get warm.
Hot and then it's going to rain.
So I don't know, but if you want to bet on that's certainly your prerogative.
We'll just wait and see.
I'm not thinking that we're going to have much of a winter, which is my 2 cents worth. And of course, who am I? I'm not the Farmer's Almanac. Yeah. But anyway, we are looking at, of course, hot, stinky weather right on through the week with temperatures in the upper 90s. Of course, the chance of rain will go up slightly as we get to the weekend, and let's hope, because a cloud and a drop would be better than nothing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here in 30 minutes for 25 News Now at 6.